for today's cup of coffee, this one goes into a lot of folklore.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I enjoy that. This comes from the Daily Mail and was September the 2nd, 2022 by Ed Wight.
Ed Wight.
White. W-I-G-H-T.
Cousin of Black.
Possibly. Beige.
Ed Black. Ed Beige. Ed Cream.
Absolutely. It says, the remains of a female vampire pinned to the ground by a sickle across her throat and a padlocked toe to prevent her returning from the dead have been found in a village in Poland.
Oh my God.
So I thought that was really cool. I was unfamiliar with this particular method of preventing people from rising from the dead. So I thought it was really interesting. And there's actually pictures that I will put somewhere through the video.
Uh-huh.
Not sure where. Somewhere through there. And
could be at the end, could be at the beginning. Who knows?
And it could be somewhere through there. I should have actually pulled those up before we started so that you could see what they looked like, because they're pretty interesting. That's the first one.
What's wrong with its tooth?
Well, we'll get to that.
That's a big ass tooth.
It is. And then that gives you a more full body.
It looks like the ribs are disconnected from the top of the...
And then there's the third one.
Is it supposed to be like that? Like the ribs are supposed to be like that?
Well, it's been dead a while. So things happen.
No, like pulled apart?
No, I do understand what you're talking about. I don't know. They didn't explain anything about that. Maybe they will at a later date. But it says discovered during archaeological work at a 17th century cemetery in the village of Pien. Researchers also found the skeletal remains had a silk cap on its head, indicating that she held a high social status and a protruding tooth.
Yes, we saw the protruding tooth.
Yeah, and it was pretty interesting because...
Nosferatu?
No, it wasn't a canine, of course. And it says the
teeth.
Team leader, Professor Polinsky, from the Nicholas Copernicus University in the nearby town of Turin, said the form of burial was unusual. He said, quote, ways to protect against the return of the dead included cutting off the head or legs, placing the deceased face down to bite into the ground, burning them and smashing them with a stone.
Damn.
The sickle was not laid flat, but placed on the neck in such a way that if the deceased had tried to get up, most likely the head would have been cut off or injured. So that makes perfect sense to me on that.
Yeah.
And he added that the padlocked big toe on the skeleton's left foot likely symbolized the closing of a stage and the impossibility of returning. I thought it was pretty cool. I had, like I said, was not familiar with these. Records of myths about the undead
It's like, no, you're banned from coming back.
really date back as far as the 11th century in Eastern Europe. People feared that some who were buried would claw their way back up to the surface as blood-sucking monsters and terrorize the living. And I have researched this type of stuff since I was a kid. Seriously, I was in elementary school doing this stuff. And then I wondered why I was a loner. But I don't know as far as the true origins of the vampire myth, who started this. Some of the things actually go all the way back to Cain, as in Cain and Abel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of things like that. But it's interesting how mythology, it all has a beginning at some point. But it's also interesting how over the centuries, no one knows.
That's true.
It's just they're like, oh, we do this because we do this. And a lot of times people don't even question. They just go along with it. And it says that it was not uncommon in the region to find burial sites where a metal rod or a stake had been hammered through the skull of the deceased. People at the time believed this was one way to ensure that the person stayed dead. In some parts of the continent, particularly among Slavic people, belief in the legends of vampires became so widespread that it caused mass hysteria and even led to executions of people thought to be vampires. Because that's always how... It wasn't just with the witch hunts. There's always been this weirdness as far as the othering. Yeah. And we have learned nothing.
The othering.
The one thing we learned from history is that we don't learn from history. And
and if you don't learn from history, it's doomed to repeat itself.
Absolutely. People who died in untimely ways, such as through suicide, would also often have been suspected of vampirism, and their bodies would have to be mutilated to prevent them from rising from the dead. In 2015, archaeologists in the village of Drusko, 130 miles away, found 5 skeletons buried in a similar manner at a 400-year-old cemetery. I think it's interesting that they've sort of unearthed these things in a very short period of time.
It's like, why would you unearth them anyway?
What is up with that?
They want the bones for something.
Sickles were found pressed against the throats of an adult man who was between 35 and 44 years old, and an adult woman around 35 to 39 years old. An older woman who was 50 to 60 years old when she died was buried with a sickle lying across her hips and a medium-sized stone at her throat. 2 more graves, both with sickles placed at the throats of the skeletons, revealed an adult woman between 30 and 39 years old and a young girl who was just 14 to 19. The researchers who made the discovery said at the time, quote, "When placed in burials, there were a guarantee the deceased remained in their graves and therefore could not harm the living. But they may have also served to protect the dead from evil forces." According to folk wisdom, a sickle protected women in labor, children, and the dead against evil spirits. It also had a role in rituals designed to counter black magic and witchcraft, end quote. The latest discovery has now been sent to Turin, where archaeologists will carry out further research.
That's pretty damn cool.
I thought it was way cool. Like I said, that was... I love it when I learn different parts of myths that I have been aware of.
Yeah.
And that's one of the... As far as iron, and people don't... parts of myths get passed along, and then other ones are left. And it's like, if you're going to tell the thing, tell all of the thing. Or at least give references to where you can find other things. Iron has, for whatever reason, has historically been used to ward off evil and kill
Still
evil.
Is.
So,
it has some sort of significance.
More than likely, the sickle was made of iron.
Yeah.
Because it could have been steel, but more than likely, within that part of the world at that time, it probably was iron. The way that it's rusted, it looks like iron.
Mm-hmm. You could pull that out and sharpen it, it'd still be good.
Well, I don't know about that. I'd say at this point it would probably crumble. And they have to be remarkably careful when they unearth these things. And we'll show you the pictures again here.
Mm-hmm.
That tooth is odd also because you can see how that it's, not only is it protruding,
Is a snaggle tooth.
It has grown very, very strange. It's almost like it has grown outside of the gum line.
Yeah. Defect.
Yeah.
Snaggle tooth. She had a snaggle tooth. That's what it is.
And but if she was a person of upper class, then they very well could have put this as a protection.
Could have.
Now, the padlock, I don't know.
They were just like, fuck you can't come back.
Instead of a toe tag, put a padlock. What if toe tags are modern day padlocks?
Fuck that, don't put that on me. I want to come back.
Now, do they remove the toe tags?
They have to put the shoes on.
No, a lot of times they don't bury corpses with shoes. Didn't you know that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times they do not put shoes on them.
They're getting the cold feet.
They got cold everything at that point.
I was joking.
No, I'm sorry. But even with, there's some burial garments that it's just the front.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the full clothing or whatever. It looks like they're clothed, but they're not.
In Night of the Living Dead, that is the most realistic version of a zombie.
Because the clothing was open in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can see that.
All those were honestly, like, seriously, all the zombies in that whole movie were the most realistic.
Well, it's interesting about the legend of the vampire and how that has evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Because
are vampires technically zombies? Because, like, they're undead.
They are undead. But it was a different thing. Now, zombie is a more recent invention.
I mean, the word zombie, yeah, but, like, the actual, like, thing, no.
Well, you had what was called ghouls there for a while, and they were the ones that lived in the tombs and that they ate the flesh of the dead. That was a ghoul. And so, basically, a zombie is a ghoul. But the term zombie comes from voodoo, the Haitian voodoo.
Yeah.
And where they had been resurrected from the dead to be used as slaves or whatever. But as far as them eating the flesh and stuff, they did not do that.
No. I mean, how could they? They didn't have hunger.
Right. So.
That's weird.
It is weird.
I'm going to have to do research on that myself.
But Romero I think he sort of hijacked that term. Night of the Living Ghouls. That would have worked. It's just that zombies has,
they didn't call them
become a cultural thing.
They didn't call them zombies in Night of the Living Dead.
It was just Walking Dead.
Yeah. I don't think the actual term zombie came until Return of the Living Dead.
Okay.
So.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder who it was. Was it Romero that came up with that term, or?
Return of the Living Dead was not a Romero film.
Was it not?
No, I don't think so.
I thought that whole franchise was Romero.
No.
We'll have to go back and look that up. So, but vampires, it was a matter of the life is in the blood.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to be dead and yet to remain animated, that was the reason as far as them drinking the blood.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Because we think, this will be horrific. Well, everything consumes something else. Even plants, they consume something else.
Those of you who are bitching about the CO2, guess what? That's what plants eat.
Yes. They're trying to starve the plants.
Yes.
So there you go. And these green earthers on some of this stuff, they want the planet to go brown because without CO2, everything dies.
Yep.
It's science, 7th grade science. My God, coffee slurp incoming.
Coffee slurp. Slurp, slurp.
But the original vampire legends were more like Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm.
These were not attractive creatures.
No,
They're dead.
They were ghoulish.
Yeah. And
creepy motherfuckers.
That they had a tendency to go after family members. Which is
odd.
Well, now, it's like people around here. You don't have to worry about strangers. You have to worry about family members.
We didn't have to worry about our family members.
No, because most of ours are dead. There's fewer to have to worry about. But
Oh, that's
within
sad.
that, it is and it isn't. But how horrific as far as the thought of a deceased relative, you looking out the window and there they are.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
That would mind fuck you.
Sure it would. It
Do you know
really
how many
would.
people would actually break mentally during a...
Sure. Well, and that was to be invited in. Which, with those earlier legends, I don't know if it was a matter of trying to attack people when they were outside of the home at night and stuff. I don't know that there were, that whole daylight thing worked with the zombie legend way back when.
Well, that's why you don't put any sort of welcome, sign or map
Right.
or whatever on your house.
Well, and even then, you have to invite it in.
Yeah, but if you have
Forces of darkness at all, period.
if you have a welcome mat or you have a welcome sign hanging on your door or whatever, that's automatically like inviting stuff in.
Really?
Yes.
Open invitation? Where did you learn that one? I hadn't heard that one.
I found that doing my own research.
Cool. Well, that's why you have things to contribute. That's why you're here.
So we might want to, take ours up.
Right. Well, that's
Because
the
I don't
reason.
want to invite any spirit that's not what.
Where do we have a welcome thing?
We have a welcome sign on that one, and we have a welcome sign on that one.
I'll have to look. Does it say welcome scaredy cats? Is that what it says?
I don't know.
It's so faded at this point. Now, the skull one, it is the skull. But I can see that. I would have no problem doing that.
Like if it's a picture of a pumpkin and that's it, like that's fine.
They did have this.
Just don't anything that says welcome or like any sort of greeting.
Right.
That's no.
But
Don't do that.
But we also have mezuzahs on the doorposts of our homes,
Yeah.
which that is very much protection against evil.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the welcome things, we can do that. But now that is a for real thing as far as welcoming evil into your home.
Well,
you can do that in multiple ways, not just a welcome mat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that welcome thing, like that welcomes any and all.
Right.
So it's like, no.
Right. Well, that was like that guy, talking about whatever's in your auric field, to tell it to leave because it did not have, it was not invited in a consensual way
Mm-hmm.
to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
So that could, it ain't gonna hurt nothing to do it. I actually did do that. It's a matter of doing that, being diligent and doing that lately.
Mm-hmm.
That's like movies, videos, whatever that have any kind of incantations. I'll mute that shit.
No, I can't.
That was like on one of the recent X-Files, and I'm like, nope, not going to invite, because that is, whether you're saying it or not, it's in your space. You're there where it's being said. So yeah, no, don't do that.
No.
But as far as the vampires and stuff, Salem's Lot. I still love Salem's Lot so much.
As far as like the listening and the just simply listening to the incantation and it causing spirits, Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Because they didn't read it. They listened to the dude read it.
Right.
So,
And it was the same thing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, that was pretty smart of me to make that connection.
You have a lot of really good connections that you make. But in Salem's Lot, where the little floating vampire child,
Mm-hmm.
that is still one of the most freaky scenes. I think his name was Danny Glick.
Didn't he say that he was hungry or something?
No, I don't know whether he said he was. I think he said he was cold or something. But the makeup is still very effective. It was very Nosferatu-esque.
Yeah.
And there he is floating, and the fingernails on the window.
Night of the Demons.
And that it was almost a mesmerizing quality.
Mm.
So I don't know if that's, I think, more of a modern thing. I don't know. But to sit there and go, oh, Grandpa's outside in the snow, he must be cold, let's let him in.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, there's Papa. We buried him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he got buried last week.
Right.
Why is he in our yard?
And then,
Like that would freak you out.
oh, sure it would. It would be horrifying.
Not you in specific, but
no,
like,
I mean, I understand. It would be horrifying. But also when people are so overwhelmed by grief and the thought of seeing that loved one again, you know, now will the forces of darkness take advantage of that? Of course they will.
Yeah.
They're very opportunistic.
Mm-hmm. No.
Just say no to dead relatives. I'm sorry I couldn't. It was just so there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the sickle thing, I thought that was really cool. And that was something that I had considered investing in recently because we need a new scythe.
Yeah.
And, you know, a new sickle.
In case like
would be
power
great.
gets like
Sure.
turned off or something and we can't get gas anymore.
Sure.
You know.
The scythe is a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
The reaping.
The Grim Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
Reaping the souls.
Mowing them down. But cool stuff. I really like that. And I hope that you all enjoyed the pictures. The link to the article will be in the description box.
Can we play Spooky Scary Skeletons over it? Perfect.
There is a song by Mayu. We love him. I love him. He is a creator. You know, he's a musician. Has a channel there on YouTube. He's actually been doing some live streams, which I have not gotten to participate in. I think he's also on SoundCloud.
Uh-huh.
But good stuff.
Good stuff. Good shit.
It is good shit. But I will probably use... He has something that will probably be very appropriate for this.
Yeah.
He has lots of things that are appropriate.
Mm.
And someone had commented about one of the pieces of music, and it's like the audio library on YouTube. And sometimes it takes a while to go and find an appropriate musical piece.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do that, I don't have to worry about copyright bullshit.
Yeah. Because, YouTube is finicky about that.
Mm-hmm. And have gotten worse. And there's a composer that that I do support. I honestly can't think of the kid's name right now. But he has some really good hits. More of a Celtic bent. He's been on that in that frame of mine for probably about a year now.
Yeah.
And you know, I had asked him, why don't you submit some of your works to see if it will, you know, be used in the audio library? And he said that he didn't know how to do that.
Well, not a lot of people do.
And they used to have a lot more selections than they do now. I don't understand
that. It's not that they
that.
don't have they don't have many selections. It's just that there's so many, and by so many people, it's just like it gets crowded, and it's hard to find certain ones, especially if you don't know the name of it.
Well, honestly, some of the things that I used to use a couple of years back, they're not there anymore.
Mm.
And God love them, there are some people, and I'm like, how in the world was yours accepted? Honestly.
I mean, yeah, some
It's
of
like,
that does
why
make
is
yours...
this here?
It definitely does make you wonder.
Yeah.
No one would buy it. That's why it's in the YouTube library.
But there's some, Kevin MacLeod is another one that has had some really good stuff. They need to, if they're going to rotate them, then they need to give other people an opportunity to submit their work.
I agree.
So if somebody knows anything about that,
They probably have to give...
let me know.
I wonder if they have to give, like, some sort of money to those people who use the music, though.
Probably not. I mean, that would be it's copyright free music. So
Yeah.
if, you know, YouTube's like, hey, let us put you here where other, you know, creators can use your music.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh.
But anyhow, you can go on there. Anybody can go on there and look up the different things. Cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can make your own little playlist of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. With or without vampires.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the vampire.
No Twilight vampires.
Oh God, no. That was.
I hated that. I hated that era.
So bad.
I hated that era so much.
So bad.
I liked the Barbies, but I hated
Frank Langella, or Langella, whichever way you pronounce it. Phenomenal as a vampire. When you go into the suave, debonair vampire era, you know, how did we go from Nosferatu to you know, some of these other ones? Not the Twilight ones.
I have no idea. There was actually a vampire Barbie. That was a collector's one. That was beautiful.
Okay.
And I need to find her.
Between the two different, the European legends of the vampires and the more modern versions. Now, Anne Rice in Interview with a Vampire did approach that. Mm-hmm. And she did it well. That book is still just phenomenal.
You won't watch the movie.
No.
It's a good movie.
No. It has Tom Cruise and it has whoever the other one was. No. As Lewis and Lestat. No. Peter Murphy should have played Lestat. He really should have. But no. They should have gotten unknown people to play those characters. But the difference was as far as when the vampires were turned over here in her story, that they did not have to dig their way out of the grave. Right. And that when they went and found the ones over in the Carpathian Mountains and stuff like that, the reason that they were insane was the fact that they had been buried and had awakened and had to claw their way out of the earth.
Shit.
Yeah, that would make anybody pretty insane.
Yeah.
And so they were very animalistic.
Mm-hmm.
They were not sophisticated at all. So, and people are like, oh, and to live forever. Yeah, but when you really think about that, I heard a line the other day. They said that there was a difference between being immortal and being eternal. And that was a way cool, very deep thought.
What's the difference? Because, like...
Immortal is to perpetually live in this form, pretty much. Eternal, that is where you get into that realm of spirit where you can be free of this, you know, mortal coil. Yeah. What good is it to live forever when anybody that you would love, you know, would eventually grow old and die? That was dealt with in the movie The Highlander.
Uh-huh.
And boredom.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you don't think about. When you've done everything, what is there to do?
That's true.
And that was something else that Rice also, you know, talked about in that book. Just the boredom to wander the earth forever. Nothing new.
Amusement parks. They could go to amusement parks.
That was Lost Boys.
They could just trail around. Just trail around.
It's a few hundred years and you're like, yeah, God, not another Ferris wheel.
Mall goth. You can never get bored of being a mall goth.
Sure you could.
Mall rat.
Yeah.
Mall rat.
Oh no, even that gets boring.
I don't know, when you actually act like a rat in the mall and start chasing people around, that's not boring.
Invader Zim, the ones that had gotten lost in the parking garage.
Turned into rat people.
Yeah. So, if you've had...
We need a box set of that again.
We do. I had that.
No, but we need like a collector box.
That would be cool. Well, that's when we get the collector's money. If you've had experiences with paranormal, supernatural encounters, UFOs, aliens, cryptids, vampires.
Yes.
If you have local, regional, or family myths or legends. If you're aware of other, you know, vampire legends and stuff like we discussed today about the sickle, that would be great if you would share that. And you can share that in the comment section, or you can send us an email, cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
That will be in the description box, as will the link to the article. Cool stuff.
Yeah. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe and click that notification button for daily notifications of our daily uploads. Vampire Pirates.
Always. Somehow goth and pirate goes along together. I don't know how it does, but it does.
Has there ever been
Hard.
a vampire pirate?
I'm sure there has. I'm sure there have.
Has there been any movies about that?
I don't know, but that could be a great creative idea for somebody out there.
Yeah.
So, know that you all are loved, and we'll see you on the next cut.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.